30 years, the country of Ostrogal was silent.
Repeating once again our top story, Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev has been removed from power, and there are tanks now in the streets of Moscow.
A post-Soviet state, declaring independence during the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991.
You're watching live pictures from Moscow this morning. He has declared a state of emergency in individual localities. It is not clear what that means.
What began as a socialist republic utopia was bastardized under the rule of General Alexander Resnev into what would eventually become a personalist dictatorship. Silent under Resnev, a general who declared himself president, then ruler, then father of a republic that never asked to be born. Silent under blackouts, curfews, ration cards, prisons with no names, and mass graves with no markers. While Resnev funded feasts, banquets, and luxury for his circle of trust, citizens starved in silence. And as for those who complained, the lucky ones were executed. All others were ignored. That silence was broken on a single night. June 15th, 2025. Operation Blackout Kill. Foreign coalition forces, acting on evidence from a man named Anton Valeska, stormed the Resnev estate, referred to by locals as the Red Manor. In only 12 minutes, silence was replaced by fire. The fire of revolution. But when the smoke cleared, rumors swirled. Was it really Resnev who died? Or a double? In the weeks that followed, whispers spread faster than any official truth. Coalition troops dug in, seizing an airfield. But Ostrogal was already shifting beneath them. Other armed groups, some claiming allegiance to democracy, some to faith, some to the people themselves, began moving into the void. It would be weeks before coalition forces would track down the real Alexander Resnev. At a hospital in Viroyoki, coalition troops searched for proof of the dictator's survival. Resnev's name lingered like a ghost, an accusation no bullet could silence. Until, at this hospital, their bullets did just that. 4 voices rose above the chaos. Anton Valeska, of the Free Ostrogal Accord, a reformist, promising elections and a clean break from generals. It was Valeska who provided coalition forces with the first credible lead, intelligence pointing to Resnev's movements through Viroyoki. While others traded in slogans, Valeska quietly handed over what would become the map to the dictator's end. Major Viktor Semenov, former Special Forces, leader of the Liberty and Shield Group, offering order, jobs, reconstruction. Semenov was a very popular candidate, vowing to run the country much like one would run a business, with motivations of profit, and profit alone. Imam Farid Jalouzi, with the Southern Believers Congress, demanded autonomy for the long-repressed South. Ostrogal's southern region possesses a large Muslim population that, under Alexander Resnev, was ignored at best and targeted directly at worst. And Dmitry Vaklenko, firebrand leader of the People's Restoration Front and the most popular candidate in Ostrogal. Vaklenko called for socialism reborn, for the workers to seize what Resnev stole. But from the beginning, whispers followed Vaklenko. The PRF-3, a violent splinter claiming to be the true revolution, accused Vaklenko of being no revolutionary at all. They called him a Danvar agent, a puppet of the Iron Vein, sent to hijack the people's cause. As it turns out, silence does not belong to Ostrogal alone. Beyond its northwestern frontier, a greater silence still endures. The Danvar Republic, a state with no elections, no embassies, no flag, ruled by a faceless directorate. The Iron Vein, the Glass Ministry, the spine of the Republic. Danvar's doctrine is simple. Survival is victory. Collapse is failure. Its weapon is ambiguity. Its ideology, permanence. For decades, Danvar stayed hidden behind walls of concrete and secrecy. Yet in the shadow of Ostragal's collapse, its influence could be felt, unseen but undeniable. The PRF-3 went public with evidence they claimed implicated Veklenko. A flight manifest to Donbas, Danvar's capital city, indicating it was for regional planning. The only indication of what planning was done here was locked behind a single phrase: Project Hollow Rock. Coalition forces would later learn the meaning of Hollow Rock. The Danvar Republic, placed under heavy global sanctions since 2011, for its total nuclear ambiguity and refusal to cooperate on the world stage, saw an opportunity. Danvar could puppet Ostragal's election, using Veklenko's reputation and fiery rhetoric to draw crowds, then relocate their nuclear weapons to this new territory, temporarily. But how would this benefit Danvar? It turns out, Danvar began this initiative while also approaching international nuclear committees, preemptively inviting inspectors inside the country. For the first time in well over a decade, to finally answer the question that kept senior officials up at night. Did Danvar possess a nuclear arsenal? Each time bullets flew at Veklenko, each time his convoy was ambushed, the accusation sharpened. Veklenko was not being hunted by Danvar. He was protected by it. And yet, for the first time in decades, the people of Ostragal heard competing visions. But in a land where silence had always been enforced by the barrel of a gun, freedom itself became a battlefield. From the very first rally, the local population seemed optimistic. All four leaders were heard by the people, some with rhetoric more popular than others. That optimism did not persist. The PRF-3 attacked convoys, tried to assassinate Veklenko, hunted him in alleys and stairwells. They branded him a traitor for his Danvari connections. Meanwhile, at the second debate in Kirkonkula, the square erupted. Technicals, machine guns, rocket fire. 11 civilians killed, more than 50 wounded. Democracy drowned in its own blood before the ballots were even printed. Viktor Semyonov himself would not escape. Weeks later, his lakeside residence at Volkyarvi was annihilated in a ground assault and rocket barrage attributed to PRF-3. The man who promised iron discipline was reduced to ash on the shoreline. But many in Ostragal and in intelligence circles still whisper that Semyonov survived. No body was ever confirmed. Some insist he escaped into exile. Others believe he waits in the shadows, preparing to return when it benefits his Liberty and Shield group most. To many, his absence feels less like death and more like an intermission. Anton Valeska fared no better. Once hailed as the Democrat of the people, his voice simply disappeared. After his first rally, his offices were shuttered overnight, phones unanswered, staff gone. Some say he fled into hiding. Others say he was taken, silenced before his promise of a clean break could ever materialize. Imam Farid Jalouzi, meanwhile, left openly. With his supporters increasingly targeted, he crossed the border into Kasivar. From exile, he petitioned the Kasivari government to grant asylum to thousands of southern Ostragali families. His words were clear. If this republic cannot make room for the South, then the South will carry itself further south until it finds a place that will. His departure marked the first great fracture, not just of politics, but of the nation itself. And so, unsurprisingly, the Klenko prevailed. His rallies swelled with workers and farmers. His slogans were painted on walls across Vorsk. The PRF claimed victory in the first free election in 3 decades. But victory was an illusion. On the very night of triumph, as he stood beside Nikolai Resnev, the son of the tyrant who betrayed his father and pledged loyalty to the people, gunfire split the air. An unidentified gunman struck them both down. The Klenko, the chosen candidate. Nikolai Resnev, the son who chose freedom. In an instant, hope was cut in half. With no other parties even present in Ostragal's election, the PRF-3 surged forward into that void. No longer a splinter, but a force claiming to inherit the revolution's corpse. But their rise carried consequences far beyond Ostragal's borders. For decades, the Danvar Republic had endured by silence. It did not wage wars of conquest. It did not intervene. Its doctrine was permanence. Its shield, ambiguity. Yet now, in the ashes of Ostragal's failed election, Danvar began moving openly. Citing reports of PRF-3 agents slipping across the frontier to destabilize Danvar itself, Danvar's Directorate of National Continuity authorized a full ground assault into Ostragal. Columns of armor, disciplined infantry, artillery brigades. They crossed the border, not in secrecy, but in daylight, crushing PRF-3 redoubts under the banner of national defense. To the world, Danvar insists this is containment, a defensive act to protect its sovereignty. To its citizens, it is framed as necessary for survival. But to analysts, the meaning is far more ominous. Danvar's supposed puppet, Veklenko, was struck down before he could consolidate power. Its chance to relocate its nuclear ambiguity through him, to execute Project Hollow Rock in silence, has collapsed. Now, with inspections looming on its own soil, Danvar may see only one option: take Ostragal by force and carve out the vault it could not purchase with politics. This counter-interference in Ostragal has become Danvar's fire, and what comes next will decide not only who rules Ostragal, but whether the world learns the truth of what Danvar may have hidden for decades. If Danvar completes Project Hollow Rock, the consequences are clear. Danvar secures a functioning nuclear arsenal. Those weapons remain undeclared, hidden from inspectors, hidden from accountability. International sanctions vanish, giving Danvar economic lifeblood just as it rearms. With Ostragal as its vault, Danvar gains a forward launch point straddling 3 continents: Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, a position from which it could threaten every capital. In short, if Danvar gets away with this, it will emerge not as a crumbling fortress, but as a resurgent superpower. Nuclear, untouchable, and perfectly positioned to dictate the terms of the next century.
Power outage? Again? Come to the Used Generator Emporium in South Viroyoki. We've got diesel, kerosene, and one unit that might be nuclear. We don't ask, we just spark. Use Generator Emporium, where everything runs, eventually.